Y'all know it's been a little while and y'all been real patient with me. I appreciate it. There's something I gotta tell y'all. I really just don't know how to put it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it out there. We did it, baby! Woo! What up, y'all? It's your man Sight back again with another beat walkthrough. This one's a little special for me. You know, this is the Super Bowl Champions edition. My birds went all the way. Everybody who knows me online or knows me in person know I bleed green. I'll be heading to the parade tomorrow, so I wanted to get a video out to you guys. I'm just kind of showing my beat process for making this kind of soul type beat. I was actually watching Rhythm Roulette. If you haven't had a chance, check it out. It's really dope. A lot of great producers go on there and they make a beat blindly using 3 records that they pick out with a blindfold. So if you're not familiar with it, check it out. It's a really dope series. I was watching the one with Ninth Wonder, and it just inspired me to really want to make something soulful. He used this loop on there that was like it just had like double time hi-hats, and it's kind of like a drum style that I've always liked since I was a young producer. So I've been doing more of the trap style drums lately, but I like to go back to my roots, here and there. With this big Super Bowl win, I'm actually going to be heading back to Philly, and I'm going to be shooting like a little documentary using my A7R2, and I wanted to have some background music. So I wanted like some classic East Coast soul beat music, for the background of that video. So that's what I'm going to be working on today, and I'll show you how I put it all together. Again, this is kind of inspired by Ninth Wonder, so it has a real, kind of boom bap feel to it. And I know some of the comments were asking for that, so I'm gonna try to incorporate some more of these on the channel for you guys. So let's get busy. All right, so first things first. So the first thing I did was I went online, YouTube, get my digital dig on, and I found this sample from this group called Final Decisions. And the song's called Keep On Walking. Now I'm going to talk over a little bit just so I don't get any copyright strikes on my channel, but I'm going to play it for you guys so you can hear the beginning. I knew it was about to drop right here. Yeah. So dope, y'all. Little breakdown. Yeah, so knew I was about to get to work on that one. The intro was good enough, so I said I'll just work with that. Came up with some chops with it. The chops sounded like this. I actually pitched it up 2 semitones, and it sounded pretty sick. It was like, actually, I EQ'd it a little bit. I'll play it without. Boom. So chopped it up like that, just in, regular 16th increments. Sometimes my chops, I'll get fancy. I'll cut them up in all different kind of angles. This one I just rocked out with what was on there. And then I just kind of started coming around with patterns. So I was messing around like that, and if you see the screen, it's kind of like, it looks scattered. And what I did was I came up with the basic 4-bar pattern, and whenever you chop up, a loop that has a similar melody, like the melody goes for 8 bars, and it's like a loop within the sample. It's pretty cool because with the background music, because you can interchange them. So like, for instance, like the first samples, you can see the pads that I'm hitting from each loop are going to sound similar. If I go to bank B, same thing. So So you can kind of swap them. So you'll see that's what I did here. I came up with a 4-bar loop, and then I went in and I kind of just, you know, switched the chops out. So if this pad, if I like this and I wanted a variation of it, I would go down here. So it's not a good example. So it came out like this. So anytime I got a sample like that, and the voices are kind of yelling, I'll go in and EQ it. And I usually EQ my samples anyway. Now I took out the high end with the low pass filter and a high pass filter for the bottom end to just focus on this part of the sample because I wanted to make my own bass line, and I didn't want the voice in it to overpower any vocals that, you know, a rapper or an artist might put on it. So yeah, I dropped this mid part. Without it would sound like this. So I just took a little bit of meat out of the vocals, and I just wanted the sample as a guideline. I didn't want it to be the whole beat per se. I wanted the bass line to be really pronounced, you know, kind of like the Ninth Wonder thing I was telling you guys about. So then I started working on the bass line. I was going through my plugins that came with the MPC. They're not really good for soul music. I mean, you can sneak some stuff in here and there, but it's very digital. They're very digital, so they don't really have really good like guitar emulations from what I've seen so far. I mean, I haven't tried some of the kits you can pay for, but just the free ones are kind of basic. So I actually made my own bass sound, and this is something I did, you know, a long time ago with my MPC 2.0. You just take a short bass note and you loop it. So it takes some time to get good at, but you know, once you get nice at it, it's kind of like riding a bike. All right, so it's just a bass sample. Actually, I'll go to the sample of the screen so you can see the original. So that's what it sounds like when I got it out of a kit. I got it out of like one of my drum kits, my old drum kits I have. And it had a pretty good texture, but it's just a very simple sine wave kind of thing. So I just looped it. I put a loop point there, and it just keeps it continuous. So if you loop it at the right spot, you won't hear any pops, you know, but if you got to mess around with it and you know, hit it little by little. But if this, what I found is if this this part of the wave ends here, you want to try to start it at the same spot. So right at the line here. So I think, yeah, yep, I started it right there. So so yeah, that's pretty simple. It's just looping a bass note, and you can do that with pretty much any sound with varying degrees of success. Bass lines are easy because you don't have a lot of top end for the most part. And then what I also did was I layered it. I took another bass tone, did the same thing. This sample here, you see, called bass tone. I put that on a second layer, and I had to pitch it down 8 semitones to make it match, because it was just a different note. This was the bass tone, and this one had a little more of a top end. So I just layered 2 basses together, and like I said, I pitched it down, and I felt like it gave me like a, you know, a fatter bass sound, because, you know, I had some top end on it and some bottom end. And then as you can see, I turned it down to 43, that top end one. So it's still a pretty bassy. If I turn it up, you'll hear. Turn it down, it's just all that sub bass. So it's really 2 bass sounds in one. I felt like, you know, right around 40 was a good medium to give me that kind of real beefy soul, you know, soul bass. So I laid the bass line down, and it sounded like this. So if you hear what I did there, again, my thing is making beats that are not too repetitive. I could have just gone with the first 4-bar loop right here. I mean, the first 2 bars. And that's pretty much what I did. I copied it. But as you can see, I went through and just played it a few times. I spent like 10 to 15 minutes on it, just getting some different variations. So instead of just repeating the same thing over and over, I tried some different notes in between. It's pretty much the same pattern. This one I got funky with. I actually put the pitch bend up on 12. Let me show you what that looks like. Over here in the controller mod section. So over here in the controller mod section, I went ahead and put the pitch bend all the way up to 100. And what that does is it gives you a full 12 semitones on your notes. So, you know, it's good. I like to throw it on 12 most of the time, depending on the beat. But I like to bend the notes whole octaves like that. So that's what I did. It sounds a little crazy, but I like the energy that it brought to it. And I just felt like it kept the bass line from getting boring. So I spent a little time on the bass line because I knew this wasn't going to be a complicated beat. You know, the goal was to kind of just make something simple and soulful, you know, 90s style, not to get too busy with it. The bass line's a big part of that. So, you know, if you know guys like Ninth Wonder and Crisis, you know, they like to get busy with their bass lines. And, you know, so I just kind of was inspired by that and I did the same thing. And I made a lot of beats like this in the early 2000s and the late 90s. So this is just kind of like, you know, riding a bike. It's just going back to what I'm used to. Another thing on that Ninth Wonder Rhythm Roulette that I liked was the double time hi-hats he used. He actually didn't just use hi-hats. He used the whole drum break and chopped it up. But the drum break had that 16th note hi-hat that I really love. It's like one of my favorite type of sounds to use. So I found a 16th note hi-hat to run with. And I found this in, I'll show you the kits that I used, actually. I got most of the sounds out of the Illmind Black kits. And he has a couple of these 16th note hi-hats variations in his various, you know, in the different kits. It might have been like kit 3 or something like that. But I ended up going into Cardiac's, one of his. Cardiac is actually a producer from around my way in New Jersey. And we're just known for dope drums up in the Northeast, man. That's what we do as far as, you know, just it's a new variation on boom bap, and Cardiac is like one of the best at it. So his kit is really dope, but that's where I found this hi-hat pattern. And I time stretched it a little bit to make it fit the tempo, but I'll bring the sounds in one at a time as I did them. You see how human those drums sound with that? I mean, you really can't go wrong at that point. Now I dropped it out at the end because I wanted to put a fill in there. I wanted a drum roll to come in at the end of the loop. I went through the Cardiac kit again, and I found a drum loop that was let me see, which one was it? This one. So I wanted to put that as the last bar, and being that these hi-hats were busy, a real drummer wouldn't play hi-hats and a drum fill because you have to take your stick off of the hi-hats to hit the toms. So that's what that do-do-do-do-do-do. That's the tom drums. Just wanted to keep things sounding more human and more real. I actually I muted out that hi-hat sound on the drum fill. And how I did that was with a mute group. So if you're not familiar with a mute group, it's just a quick way you can mute a sound that's long like this. So if it's too long and you just want to mute it somewhere, assign it to a mute group, which is really easy. You just go into program and it's right here, mute target. You just choose, I chose an empty pad. You can see this one up here. And I chose, this is A8, pad A8. So I went ahead and added pad A8, and you see you can mute up to 4 different pads with one pad. So what I did was I sequenced that mute, which is this little block right here, and that cuts the hi-hat off. So I'll let you hear it. So that's just a cool way to mute sounds. If it's a long sample or something you want to cut out for a second, sequence a mute group. That's one way to do it. You can also sequence your actual mutes in the MPC software, but I think the mute group is a little easier for something like this. I really liked where the hi-hats were. It's time to add some kicks and snares. Now I spent some time on the drums because I just couldn't find the snare that I really liked, but I wanted to go with something really kind of snappy, you know, boom bap classic style. And I had some pretty hard sounding drums. This is the one I actually ended up choosing. I ran with this one for a while. This was out of the Blab kit, the Illmind kit, one of them, and so was this one. But I actually added this tambourine sound on top to make it sound a little crispier. I'll show you what that looks like. I put this hi-hat late, which is one of the hi-hats out of one of the Blab kits, and pitched it down to 9. I messed with the pitch. And I just pitched it to taste. There's really no formula on it. You just kind of go by ear. But pitching your drums is a big thing when you're sampling. You don't want your drums to sound out of tune with the sample. So sampling, that's one of the biggest challenges, is actually pitching your drums and pitching all your sounds, really. I had to pitch that bass line too. I didn't get a chance to really tell you about it, but I had to increase it, not a full semitone, just go to the fine level. But yeah, anytime you're working with samples, and especially if you speed them up or slow them down, you're gonna have to pitch your sound. So just get ready for a lot of that, like tuning the sounds to sound right. With this snare, I'll show you what it sounded like with the hi-hats. Boom. So the snare was there. I actually put the kick and the snare together at the same time. I just wanted to show you guys what each one sounded like. Now with the kick, I used another one of my tricks from the 90s. Definitely layered up the sounds. I'll show you what it looks like with the layers. I layered up 3 kicks for it, and I just took a little time on it. So it might have taken me like a half hour, 20 minutes to really get the kick right. And when I spend this much time on a kick, I like to resample it and save it for later, because that's the best way to create your own kick. So just quick tip there. Basically with this kick, what a lot of producers do, kind of, I don't want to say wrong, but something that when they're making soul beats, they use just a really stiff kick. It doesn't sound very human. Now, a quick way to make your kick drum sound human is to go to your LFO modulation, and instead of one shot, turn it to note on. And let me show you here. Right here in the sample play, instead of modulation or one shot, instead of one shot, turn it to note on. And then you have to go in and set your amp envelope, because what it's going to do is you might not be able to hear it. So you want to set your decay. I usually set it around 50%. And what that'll allow you to do is, instead of every time hitting the pad, it going, when you hit it twice like that, it cuts that first one off. So it gives you like more of a human kick drum sound. I'll show you what that sounds like. So I'm really feeling it at this point. You know, the beat's coming together. I feel like I got something that's ready to go out the door, basically. I wanted to add a couple more things just to make the drum fill at the end match with the beginning. And one way to kind of add drama to the beginning of your loop is to add a cymbal crash. So that's what I ended up doing. Added a crash and some open hats. So I added a couple of these and this crash to start it. And the crash just makes it sound a little smoother coming in. Without it, I'll let you hear. So I like it to come in with the crash whenever I have a big breakdown like that, because usually a drummer, they'll splash that cymbal. So I threw that in. I like the way that was going. And the last thing I wanted to add, anytime you have a beat like this that's really soulful, you'll usually have some claps. They call them soul claps for a reason. Some claps or some snaps. So I decided to go back into the black kit, find some snaps to layer on a couple of those snares just for variation. Even though the drums I thought sounded great at this point, I just wanted to add that snap in on a couple of the snares. And you'll see me do that from here, here and there. Either throw this, some snaps or a clap at the end, or throw them at the beginning, depending on how the sample goes. So I threw them the first two snares, and then the second two snares I left open. So this is what it sounds like with the snaps in there. So being that I'm getting so many latency issues with my computer with this latest update, I'm just gonna actually render the beat out, play it for you guys. So I hope you guys liked the video. I hope you liked the beat. I decided on the spot, if I get up to 200 likes on this video, I'm gonna give away a drum kit to you guys, custom made, just put together some of my best drums for you and EQ them and everything, and some of my favorite kits, and just take stuff out of it and put that together for you guys. So if you like it, if I get 200 likes on this video, guaranteed, consider it done. So y'all enjoy your day. I've got a parade to get to. Peace.